Nikita Mazepin. In early December of 2020, Haas F1 Team announced Nikita Mazepin as their driver for the 2021 Formula One season. Now, I think it's fair to say this sparked a little bit of outrage amongst the F1 fan base. But why? Well, you see, Mazepin just isn't very good. But you might say, well, Nikita Mazepin won 2 races in Formula 2 the season before that, so he couldn't have been that bad. And while I will agree that somewhat strengthens his case for a Formula 1 seat, at the time, looking at clips of his racecraft and his wheel-to-wheel racing with other drivers, I think anyone would come to the common conclusion that he was a bit of a dirty driver. Whether it was pushing Dragovic all the way to the upside down in Bahrain or attempting to murder Yuki Tsunoda in Spa, it's fair to say that Nikita Mazepin garnered quite a reputation for himself. But that wasn't the only reason people didn't like this decision. Nikita Mazepin was also a pay driver. Now, you don't need me to tell you why people don't like pay drivers. If you're new to Formula 1, pay drivers, they're brought into the team because of the money they can bring to the team rather than the actual talent. That's the basic gist of it. There are probably channels out there that go way more into depth on what that is. So being a pay driver, that was automatically going to hang a giant asterisk above his entire Formula 1 career. Just ask Sir Lancelot himself. Going into his first year in Formula 1, his teammate was going to be the reigning Formula 2 champion, Mick Schumacher, the son of 7-time Formula 1 champion, Michael Schumacher. So he had his work cut out for him from the get-go. But that leads us into the 2021 Formula 1 season. In my opinion, one of the greatest F1 seasons in the history of the sport, remembered by all mentally stable Formula 1 fans as the season that brought us one of the greatest one-on-one title battles in the history of Formula 1. It was also the season that brought us the debut of the great Nikita Mazepin in Formula 1, and his first race for Haas F1 Team in F1 was the opening race in Bahrain. So qualifying last, a staggering 8/10 behind his teammate Mick Schumacher, he sat on the grid, pulses racing, goosebumping, 5 red lights on the red light thingies, and it was lights out, and away we go for the opening race of the 2021 season into turn 1, avoiding any problems at turn 1. Very tight hairpin, goes into turn 2, and it was over. About 2 to 3 corners into his Formula 1 debut, Nikita Mazepin spun out of the Bahrain Grand Prix and ended his first race in the gravel, and he was out of the race, giving people flashbacks to Grosjean the year before. But no, it was just Mazepin. And when I tell you the memes after this were generational, of course everyone was talking about Max and Lewis up front, but the comic relief was the fact that Mazepin couldn't even last 3 corners in a Formula 1 race the first time he had a chance. And trust me, this video won't do it justice. The amount of times Mazepin spun in practice and in qualifying and in testing, just spin after spin. Mazepin was a meme at the time, and all this before Bro could even finish a lap in a Formula 1 Grand Prix. It was truly tragic. And contrary to popular belief at the time, Mazepin did go on to finish a few first laps after this, and he did compete throughout the Formula 1 season, or not compete competitively, he was there. And he did go on to have a few more spins and crashes after this, albeit a few of those weren't his fault, I will say. The one in Imola, I think, was Latifi's fault, I believe it was. And you know what? Forget Max versus Lewis, forget Verstappen versus Hamilton for a second. 2021 was about the GOAT debate between Nicolas Latifi and Nikita Mazepin. Of course, my GOAT will always be Latifi, but I have to say, Mazepin had Latifi's number this season. I mean, we like to clown Latifi, but Mazepin was absolute comedy gold this season. I mean, he made Mick Schumacher looked like the second coming of Michael himself. He looked like a future 7-time world champion when compared to Nikita Mazepin. There was some point, I think it must have been Monaco, where Mazepin got lapped by the whole grid like twice or something. I'll have to recheck that, but by my memory, Mick Schumacher absolutely destroyed Mazepin this season. I thought this man was generational at the time. That was my bad. If Mick Schumacher cut out a bit of the crashing that season, he may have got a Ferrari seat at the end of that season. That's how good Mazepin made him look. Ferrari would have looked at Carlos Sainz and said, hey, you're good and all, but this man here, Mick Schumacher, he is of another planet. I dare you to look at every qualifying session of 2021. Find me a qualifying session where Mazepin was within 5/10 of Mick Schumacher, and I bet you're going to fail. Like in Austria, the shortest track on the calendar, Mazepin was 5/10 off Schumacher in qualifying. That's the levels we're talking about. And I'm not saying 5/10 was the consistent gap between the two. We're talking 1 second in Spa, about 4 seconds in Russia, his home race, 3-second gap in Turkey, 2-second gap in Qatar, and a 1-second gap in Saudi. See, I just made 1 second gap in qualifying look close. These were all gaps he had to his teammate in the same machinery, Mick Schumacher. And in case you're wondering, Mick Schumacher wasn't even that good. I mean, I'm not saying he was a bad driver, but he wasn't a Max Verstappen or a Fernando Alonso to be gapping his teammates by 2, 3, 4 seconds in qualifying sessions in the same machinery. I actually remember people were turning on Mick Schumacher in that season because he used to crash a lot, and I used to say he was good, he had potential, and that was only because of how good Mazepin made him look. He was exposed by Magnussen the season after that, Mick Schumacher. And actually, ironically, Kevin Magnussen destroying Mick Schumacher in 2022 just highlighted further how terrible Nikita Mazepin was, because he lost really badly to Mick Schumacher, and then Mick Schumacher went on to lose really badly to Magnussen, and Magnussen is now getting outperformed by Nico Hülkenberg. It's truly a wonder how this man got to put his hands on Formula 1 machinery in his lifetime, but he eventually had to leave Haas F1 Team because the funding stopped. He couldn't pay Haas anymore, so they got rid of him. They didn't need him anymore in 2022, and of course he released that video about how he was unfairly released. But hey, the Mazepins weren't the only sports entity to be hit hard by the Russia situation, so we move. Unless you're Mazepin, of course, in which case you're nowhere to be found, because I have not heard from this man ever since that video dropped. Not sure what category he's racing in, if he's even racing at this point. You can let me know in the comments where he's gone at this point. But thankfully for the Formula 1 purists, and sadly for the meme makers, he's no longer in Formula 1 as we speak. So that's the end of the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave your comments in the comment section down below. And from me, DK Jones, I'll see you next time.